7, continuing to chapter 28. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
The Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said, "You believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that." He then added, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." The Gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. You may be seated. The Jews are a chosen people. The Christians are a chosen people. And as you heard me say last week, following God is not always easy. Being chosen doesn't mean that things will work out the way that we expect always. But being chosen does mean that God is with us. God will work all sorts of things through everything that God has given. So yesterday, on the way to church, I get only about 4 blocks from the house, and I get a phone call from Ring Alarm Company. And I'm going, this is not good. And it wasn't. Water leak detected at my hot water tank. And I tried to figure out, how am I going to get somebody over there to take a look at it? Because I was on my way here. Had nobody to go look at it. So I had my wife call Gina Dell as I turned around trying to get back to take care of this water leak. And of course, Gina Dell's like, what's wrong? Because how often does my wife call her at 4:30 in the afternoon on the way here? We don't know what's wrong. There's a water leak. We'll figure it out. Turned out, fortunately, I had a tray, and so the water was leaking, but it was pouring outside. Yay, right? I don't know where God's going to take this piece in my life. Just because I'm a follower of Christ doesn't mean that I won't have problems. Boy, that's a problem. It cost me, so far, over $700. So far. And I say so far because I have been told by plumbers and electricians, if you do the plumbing, I will not come back. If you do the electrical, I will not come back. This is an electric hot water tank. It involves both. But fortunately, that plumber and that electrician don't live around here, so I can try to swing somebody else into it if I mess it up. But it might be an opportunity to learn something. It might be an opportunity to connect with other people. I don't know. God's got something in mind, and we'll find out where this all goes. Martin Luther wanted to change the church. He was not expecting to be kicked out. He was not expecting to have his life threatened. He was not expecting to have to hide out in a church to be able to save his life. He was chosen and followed Christ. He followed God. It didn't make his life easy. But what God did with him was, while he was hid out, trying to not be killed, he translated the Bible, going back to the original Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew, into German. There was no codified German language until Luther did this. So he helped codify a language for all of Germany, surrounded by what best? The Bible. So now anybody could read this Bible. So God took this bad thing that was going on with Martin and turned some good things into it. Of course, if Martin Luther hadn't stirred up some stuff, you wouldn't be sitting here today, would you? He wasn't the first to stir up stuff. He just was the first to stir up stuff after the press, Gutenberg press, was made, and so his information was able to get out. God's timing is always perfect. God will turn bad situations into good. Sometimes we don't get to see that. So we have Jacob here, who, by the way, if you don't know, Jacob, when he was born, is supposedly had grabbed Esau and tried to pull him back in. He didn't want Esau to be born first. That's how the story goes. But we also have to remember the Bible is kind of like a picket fence. It gives us some glimpses of things, but doesn't give us all full pictures. We need to help interpret, listen for God to find all these things that are going on. And part of the story here is, which we didn't cover, is his mom had a dream. A dream from God saying that the older shall serve the younger. Esau to serve Jacob. Now, let's face it, we also know that Jacob was mom's favorite. We all have a favorite, right? Don't raise your hand. I have a favorite. It just depends on which day it is and what the other one did or didn't do. But we all have a little bit of a favorite there, like she did, and like, let's face it, it happens. So she helped him. Now, was this Jacob's plan or was it mom's plan? Or was it both of their plans? But then I got to question his dad. Remember, Isaac is that one that was supposed to be sacrificed last week that we heard about, that was taken up to the top of the mountain. He should not be here, but God intervened when Isaac asked, well, where is the lamb? And God provided. So, back in biblical times, and even in some places now, the eldest is the one that would inherit everything. The largest portion, receiving the blessing from the father, passing these things down. That's not what happened. The youngest did. And then Jacob, the one that didn't want Esau being born first, the one that is now a trickster because he tricks dad, or did he? Because dad says, well, the voice doesn't match my other son. How did you get the food so quick? It's his favorite meal, but the favorite meal wasn't really the favorite meal. It was a meal that mom had already prepared to give to him, to give to dad. So it wasn't the meal that he was expecting, but he's getting this meal. So he's being tricked in all sorts of different ways, or was he? So I'm saying about the Bible, it's a picket fence. We get glimpses. How many of you could take and put something on the back of your neck and somebody would think it was the hair from the brother? Yeah. The voice didn't match. The food didn't match. It got back awfully quick. So maybe Jacob had tricked, or maybe Isaac was a willing participant. Now, he says that he is going to be dying, and it was 20 years before Isaac actually died. So we take Jacob, he tricks, and then he goes on, and he lays down and has this dream and is told by God that your inheritance will be like the dust upon the earth. You'll cover to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south. So even God uses a trickster. God uses Noah, who is considered to be a drunk. God uses you and I. How many of us are perfect? Not. But God has used us here. We have an impact on so many people through our ministries. So God can use all sorts of things, and sometimes we just don't get the picture. We may wonder, why is this going on to me? I'm sure Esau wondered what was going on. And Jacob always had the opportunity to change it. Isaac had the opportunity to change it, right? He figured it out later. I mean, over the 20 years, I'm sure he figured it out. Again, maybe he was a willing participant in this. But God uses Jacob. And you ever heard that? Jacob and his sons? You ever heard that term, Jacob and sons? Who was Jacob's famous son? I'll give you a hint. He wore a Technicolor dream coat. A coat of many colors. Joseph. What did Joseph do? Well, Joseph got sold into slavery. Joseph led a terrible life until he got to Egypt. And even then, it was questionable whether or not he was going to survive. His brothers were very jealous of him and sold him off. But God used Joseph for the non-chosen. He helped all the Egyptians be able to survive because of Joseph's dreams and the interpretations he gives to the Pharaoh. We are called to take care of all the people, not just the chosen, the Christians and the Jews, but all people. So when they're in our midst, we are called to take care of the stranger in our land, no matter what. Because God uses us to take care of God's creation. So Joseph takes care of all these people, which takes care of his family as well. And they come over to Egypt. Martin Luther King Jr. was not expecting to be assassinated. But he changed the world. He changed here, but he changed the world, how we look at one another. And we're still having to work on that. But he started something. And it continues. And things are better than it was. He was a follower of Christ. And for that, he was assassinated. It's not always easy following God, but we are chosen to do this. It's not what he would have wanted. It's not what his family would have wanted. But God uses even disasters, assassinations, to change the world. Charlie Kirk was not waiting to be assassinated. He knew it was a possibility to receive death threats, but he continued to go out and preach the gospel. Yes, he had political pieces too, but he preached the gospel. And for it, some people did not like what he had to say. He paid a price. His family's paying a price, but God is working with that. His goal was to have maybe 20,000 chapters of Turning Point by sometime at the end of his life. There's over 35,000 people that have applied for more Turning Point chapters. There is going to be a full stadium of believers and some non-believers because they want to see what all this is about. His death, God is using to impact other people's lives. God will take everything of ours, the good and the bad, and use it for all of God's creation. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's always going to be fun. But we are the chosen. And if we're the chosen, we listen for what God has to say. We try to follow that, like Rebecca did. She tried to follow what she heard God say to her in her dream. And we walk with the Holy Spirit. How many of you are willing to raise your hand and say you've heard God in a dream? I have. For me, it's usually after I've already got the sermon done and God says, no, I think you're going to do it this way. And I get no sleep that night because I keep getting woken up with more bits and pieces of changing things. I did not want to be a pastor. I did not want to be a pastor. I tried multiple times not to become a pastor. I tried and tried not to go to seminary. I came up with excuses, and God took care of those excuses. And some of you have heard, some of the congregations I've been at have not been overly fun. I've been through personal attacks. My wife has been through personal attacks. My son has. My daughter has. Seminary was not fun for our family either. But I trust God. God will provide. When my call ended at my last congregation after only being there about 15 months, it's like, really, God? What are you going to do with this? 9 jobs, trying to make ends meet. And then I came here as an associate pastor, interim, and then senior pastor here. You guys are awesome. And God works through you. God has worked through you for healing for me, for my family. Even my daughter and my son who don't live here has seen a difference because you guys feel the Spirit. We are Spirit-led. We know that we are saved by God's grace, not by our own. So that we can go out as the chosen to serve all. Does it mean it's going to be easy? No. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But God's not done with us. God's not done with you, or you, or you. Definitely not you guys. God's not done with us. There is more for us as the chosen to be done. Hold on. Look. Watch. Listen. We are the chosen.